Hi, this is a DrumWise Meets, and today I'm here with Sophie Alloway. She's played for the likes of Roots Maneuver, Gala and Lydian Collective. Hi Sophie.
Hi Tom.
So my first question for you today, Sophie, what age did you get into drums and what bands or artists inspired you when you first started?
Okay, well, my parents tell me that because there was always music around in our house, I was always sort of tapping out rhythms. And, you know, if I was on the sofa, I'd be tapping the cushions. And I remember I used to get the chopsticks out of the kitchen drawer and, you know, just play probably when I was 5, 6, 7. And maybe a little later when I was 9 or 10, I'd get the pots and pans out and make my own kits with cardboard boxes and things. So there was definitely a passion there and an interest in it. And then when I was 10 or 11, I suppose, my parents decided to get me a little secondhand kit. I don't know what it was. It was a mishmash of things. And at this point, I was playing along with a lot of Beatles songs, Rolling Stones, and then I had my magic epiphany, which is where I discovered Stevie Wonder's music. So I got obsessed with Songs in the Key of Life and Inner Visions by him. And I always say he taught me to play because I was largely self-taught, and I played along with both those albums so much. From about 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And if you know those records, there's a huge range of styles on there and feels and odd time stuff, fusion and jazzy influence. And Stevie himself is a fantastic drummer. So those were early influences. And then depending on how long we've got, I've got masses of slightly later influences. If you want to hear some of those, you're welcome.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, soul and rock at first, but you know, I heard people like Dave Brubeck at home and Oscar Peterson, so there was a bit of jazz played, and this was all just sort of normal for me from one day to the next. But I loved Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix, massive Stones fan all through my teenage years. And then I got into jazz and the session players, you know, who were playing with Steely Dan and anything that Steve Gadd or John Robinson or Jeff Porcaro played on, loads of other players. I just sort of get the records and listen and, you know, again, play along with those, and or Earth, Wind and Fire, see what I could absorb from all of that.
Awesome.
But yeah, first proper kit at about 10 or 11, I think.
And my next question is normally, what was your first kit? But you said obviously it was a mishmash. But what was your first kit that you can remember details of?
Yes, right. Well, the thing is, I was never a sort of a drum nerd. I became one much later. But I remember Max Win by Pearl. Remember one of those in blue. And then the only new kit I've ever had would have been a Yamaha Stage Custom Advantage, no less. I don't know what the Advantage was, but we got on pretty well, so maybe that was it. So yeah, it was great. And then since then, I've acquired a few more, but those were the early ones.
Excellent. Well, that leads me on to my next question. So, you know, when we are out gigging and recording and so on, what's your equipment of choice these days?
Well, that varies. I mean, I at the moment I've got seven drum kits. So the one that I'm using a lot for recordings and I'll take out for special occasions, it's a sort of a mixture of, they're all cherry red, about 4 of my kits, so I can mix and match. I've got a nice 22-inch maple custom bass drum by Yamaha, and then the toms are birch custom. I've got 10, 12, 14, 16 with lovely wood hoops, so really nice warm vintage sound, especially with the emperor heads. They're quite thick, hard work to play, but yeah, I love the sound. Lots of different snares. I'm doing some jazzy stuff at the moment, so I've got some nice Premier modern classic maple snares in different sizes. Ludwig 400, 402, the big bottom one, Steve Ferroni signature snare, and then masses of cymbals, nice Stilgen Constantinoples, lots of Ks, K Custom, Phosphorus Istanbul, Paiste, my favorite ever crash, Paiste 2002 black label, really nice. So, you know, whatever the music requires.
Good stuff. Excellent.
Oh, I should also say, when gigging around town, because I used to do masses of gigs around town, I have 3 Yamaha hip gigs, the Rick Marotta models. So they're great, you know, for all the little jazz gigs if they don't have their own kit at the venue. So I have 3 of those, and then a nice Ludwig super classic from the early 70s for the rockier stuff.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I've got one of the Ludwig breakbeats kits, and it's just brilliant.
Oh, the Questlove one.
Yeah, it's so small, and it's just brilliant for taking to just chucking in the corner of a venue or whatever. With the really lightweight DW hardware that just folds up, and you just carry it like this. It's
yeah, but I played one of those Questlove ones because there's a venue in central London that has one. But for me, the Yamaha hip gigs that they stopped making, they're amazing because they've got these stools. I don't know, I'm actually sitting on it at the moment, but these like old-fashioned cases that all the hardware goes in. And yeah, so they're really useful. But yeah, great kits, great sound as well on those hip gigs.
Yeah, awesome. So possibly a difficult question here. I would find this one hard to answer myself. But that said, if you had to pick just one, who would be your all-time favorite drummer?
Well. I I can pick one, and it would be Steve Gadd. I just adore Steve Gadd. I love the range of stuff he's done, his taste, his pocket is immense, you know, his groove, his time, his feel. Yeah, the fact that he certainly back in the day he had immense chops in my opinion, but he was able to, you know, put the ego at the door, not use them, and just play a groove that really felt great. So I love Gadd. Huge Jeff Porcaro fan. Love Steve Ferroni. I've actually got I've got a great shot of him here in my studio. Ta-da!
Oh, nice.
Check that out. That was at the 606 playing with Hamish Stewart and Molly Duncan a few years ago. And there's so much about that picture I love. So yeah, Steve Jordan, John Robinson, Tony Williams, Jeff Tane Watts, Buddy Williams, loads of those players. I love it all.
Awesome. And it's funny that was that the 360 band?
Yeah, 360 band.
I got to see them in Whitstable. And that I believe
because Hamish is out that way, yeah.
Yeah, and I believe that was Molly Duncan's last show. And
right. Yeah,
it was, which is obviously really sad. But what a gig to go to. And I was literally sat in the front row, so Ferroni was like 6 feet away from me, and I've never seen him play live before. And I've said this in a couple of other interviews, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I was sitting there and I was just like in a trance watching his playing, and it just, I don't know, it just did something to me. And I was just like, okay, this is one of those moments in my life. Like, he is just an animal, just the way he plays.
Yeah, talking about pocket and groove and commitment and intensity, he's just, oh my, I mean, listening to all the Shaka Khan stuff and loads of the sessions that he did, maybe when he was still over here. I think he might have moved to New York and then LA, but just phenomenal player and so much commitment. And yeah, it's a real experience seeing him play live. Hopefully he'll be over here more, you know, now that Tom Petty isn't around, you know, he might come over more when he's allowed to, because seeing him, jeepers creepers.
Definitely, it's worth checking out. And
Yeah.
if you haven't, if you're watching this and you haven't seen the Steve Ferroni interview, check it out. It's one of my my favorite ones. And there's a moment in there. We talked about this off camera, Sophie, when we talked about you watching his interview. When I'm talking to him about playing on Earth Song by Michael Jackson, and he says, "Oh, and I played on another record as well that day. Can't remember what it was." Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean you can't remember what other Michael Jackson record it was that you recorded? Like, what?
Yeah, I mean that song, because I was a huge Michael Jackson fan, and an Earth Song, I remember, as my teens, I guess, but the feel of the drums and the drum sound, it was so powerful. I love the song anyway, but I remember that, so I was a bit of a liner note nerd, and I remember opening the history CD liner notes, and they had lyrics, and I was thinking, who played? They didn't even itemize who was on which track, and I later learned that that was Ferroni, and I thought, okay. I thought maybe it could have been John Robinson, but yeah, ridiculous. And the thing I love about the Ferroni interview is his laugh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Brilliant. So, apart from this moment right now, Sophie, what's been the highlight of your career so far?
Yes, well, gosh, yeah, this is special. No, I am really enjoying being here. I mean, picking one moment is tough. I mean, I've done things like later with Jules Holland, so the pressure of the live show and the pre-record, and the fact that you've got Dave Gilmour there and Jeff Beck there, and various people, Elbow were there as well. There's a pressure with that from live TV or doing a main stage at Glastonbury or something. But I like the range of stuff. I love playing in jazz clubs, like at the 606. I've done a lot there, or Ronnie's. So I'd say, yeah, maybe the range of stuff, like doing pop, then going and playing a hardcore jazz gig, and then some funk. If that's not annoyingly broad.
No, I think that's a good answer, because most, especially like my a lot of my sort of teenage students or whatever, they would be like, oh yeah, the highlight's like playing for Glastonbury and earning like £1 million. It's like, it doesn't really work like that. Like,
No.
and one day you'll be playing Glastonbury and the next day you'll be at the Dog and Ducking Barking. It's not.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's all music. It's all of those things are the reason we do what we do. And I've said before, I mean, the pressure of playing in a tiny little club for two people who are listening intently, or if Jeremy Stacey's sitting there, or Ian Thomas, or someone I really admire, I mean, they're lovely guys, but that is a different kind of pressure with far fewer people and not £1 million involved currently. I'll let you know if and when.
Now, talking about playing, for lots of different artists, which you have over the years, when you first get a gig with a new artist, whether it's recording or actually playing live, how do you go about learning the material? Do you just listen to it and you've got it, boom, or do you listen and transcribe, or or are you ever given a whole folder of all of the music? Here you go, Sophie, here's everything that you've got to play in dots, learn that for me?
No, I mean, that would be incredibly rare. I think the only time I was handed the dots for the entire thing was when I did that Michael Jackson musical Thriller, the West End one that traveled. And that was, I mean, I know all those records really well, but somehow having it all written, saying you must catch this because the dancers are depending on you. I thought, okay, well, that's one thing, but I like to have some freedom to interpret. So regarding, the question, it depends how long I need to sort of commit the set to memory. If I'm coming in and it's probably a one-off, I'll definitely make notes on everything, and I'll listen to, if they're original songs, I'll listen to a recording, maybe the way the previous drummer played it. I'll do my own little cheat sheet charts, so making sure the structure is clear, when I come in, you know, feel if there are any tempo changes, anything to watch out for, like if it suddenly changes time signature. Obviously, if there are any phrases that the band members are playing, or if there's an off-putting phrase that they're playing, but I'm not meant to follow, you know, I might put that in brackets. But it really depends. I'll always try and listen to the music in the car, absorb it, and yeah, it depends, yeah, how long I need to retain the information for as well. But writing it out is very helpful for absorbing it.
And with the thriller show, did you have to play Earth Song out of interest?
No, and that was a fairly short-lived thing. So it was Mike Bradley's gig, and Gabor Dornier was doing the touring. Earth Song was not in it, and I'm quite pleased because it was all on electronic drums. I know you've got a great set there, but that was a funny thing in the Ferroni interview, wasn't it? That Michael Jackson specifically wanted him to play electronic drums, and he had already got an amazing sound with his set. So yeah, no, Earth Song was not there, but there was a huge range of stuff. Yeah, that was fun, but high pressure. Definitely.
I bet. And speaking of pressure, have you ever had anything go wrong on stage that you've had to recover from?
Well, yeah, I think we all have some of the usual things. Yeah, thinking about Glastonbury, that was about 10 years ago, so I was younger and a little more foolish, but I had a footwear malfunction on that, and it was quite a big thing. It was all going out on the BBC, and yeah, it was a big stage, and it had been raining maybe the day before we got there. And then the sun came out and it was a super hot day. So I was wearing flip-flops thinking, yeah, this is great. You know, my toenails are just the right color for this gig, and the usual. And so I thought, I'm going to wear the flip-flops. And somehow the effect of the mud drying, it turned to some really weird sort of dusty clay, which may not sound that surprising, but the reaction when I had it on my flip-flops and I sat down and play, and it's a really quick turnover always, you know, you get in, you sit down, and then suddenly you're on. My flip-flops was slipping up and down the bass drum pedal like nobody's business. You know, trying to find my footing was challenging. So I've learnt my lesson, and yeah, never again. It was great fun, but I was just sort of aware that there was some unpredictabilities with the footwear on that one.
You heard it here first. Don't try and play a gig in flip-flops.
I did hundreds of gigs in flip-flops, but it was something about, it was a reaction. The sun coming out and all the mud turning to dust. It was just, speaking of the sun coming out, it's amazing. It's snowing and it's sunny. I found a use for Ferroni. I'm just going to put him in front of the window if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Get some even light here. Right, there we go.
Ferroni window blind. There you go.
Ferroni saved the day yet again.
I'm going to text him about that later and say, right, look, you need to watch this interview, and then afterwards I want you to start this product. It's called the Steve Ferroni window blind.
It's the best looking window blind I've ever seen.
There we go. Now, moving away from drums for a sec, and a couple of curveball questions. And the first of those is, what are your hobbies away from drums?
Well, gosh. Well, you know, it's something nice about where we are at the moment, if I can mention a positive regarding sort of, yeah, not much happening for the last year, is when I was younger, I was just so immersed in music and the drumming. I think I sort of saw it as almost like a failure to have other interests. And now as I get older, I think, no, it's so important. So when the gyms are open, I'll spend probably at least an hour in there nearly every day. So I love keeping fit. When the gyms are closed, I go out for walks and cycle. I've got my weights, and trying to get into yoga here at home.
Mm.
That's early days. But yeah, love keeping fit. I used to play a lot of tennis. Started to cook a bit more because I love my food.
Mm.
And yeah, trying to get fresh air, get out of here, because it's great, but we need to remember there's a whole world out there, and there are people, if you're lucky enough to bump into anyone in this current climate.
Yeah. At least you've got one window in there. I've got no windows in here.
Well, that was not in the original plan. I mean, this was only built 6 months ago.
Oh,
So it's relatively new, but yeah, Chris Wharton, who did it, said, I've got this window. We took it to some drum shows. Do you want it for an extra few bob? And I said, yeah, I do, because if you don't know what time of day it is or what's happening out there, it's a bit of a strange existence. So it's great having a little window to the real world.
yeah. Awesome. Currently blocked up by Steve Ferroni.
Yeah, what can I say? And it was just I just saw myself in the corner. I saw this big sort of load of sunlight, which is nice. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's all good. So my second curveball question here, the most exciting question from all of these interviews, and if you've watched some, you will know where we're going with this. So, what is your favorite biscuit?
Well, yeah, I thought you were going to ask that, and the one with the thickest layer of chocolate, whatever that is, it could be a Fox's one, but just as much chocolate as they can pile on, I'll eat it. I'll demolish it. I go through these phases of sort of being a bit of a chronic chocoholic, and then going, right, I'm going to abstain for 6 months. But currently the struggle's on. What can I say?
Yeah, tell me about it. It is when you're locked indoors and then you buy the biscuits and then in the cupboard and you're like, oh, I've just got to have them when they're there. So
I know, and the thing is, I used to just be able to eat anything and no problems. I looked the same, I felt the same, but there's a difference. There's a change a coming. That's all I can say, and I've got to be careful not to overdo that stuff. But I love it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I've got to a certain age and I'm like, yeah, I can't eat like I used to anymore.
No, but that's the way it goes. Sometimes it's good to have a wake-up call and think, all right, I should start making some changes now, without wishing to get serious. But yeah, you got to keep an eye on those things.
And back to being serious now. So my last question for you, Sophie, if you could give one bit of advice to people starting learning the drums, so someone that's new to all this, what would that advice be?
Well, I would suggest maybe they keep an open mind to different styles and genres, because I think whatever has drawn someone to the instrument, whether it's seeing something on TV or loving a particular song, there's a good reason for each of us thinking, wow, okay, I want to give that a go. So to have your thing is important, and to be dedicated to that, whatever it is, if it's a style or a particular player. But yeah, to be open-minded and not cut yourself off from other styles and other players that you might assume you won't like. And the other thing is to put a lot into it, because I think with the drums, I think Peter Erskine said, with drums, you get out what you put in. So there isn't really an easy ride, but it's a great ride. And if you can make a career of it, it's an amazing thing to do. It's a hard road at times, but what a privilege to be able to play, and all the different people you meet. And if you get to travel, it's well worth investing the time and energy into it, I think.
So Sophie, thank you so much for spending your time with us here at DrumWise today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you.
Thank you, Tom. I really enjoyed it, and keep up the great work. I look forward to checking out some of the other people you've got coming up.